Hi fam, I hope that your weekend is going amazingly well. And so today I'm here to share the final lessons from the third door with you. So the final life lessons. So let's zoom into it. So I think that one of the key lessons, right, is that we followed Alex along this journey, right, where he's met so many people, he's interviewed some of his interviews failed, right? But then somehow he found a way to still enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, right? And I think that that's one of the key lessons that we need to enjoy the process. The thing is that there's always going to be the next thing they were looking for, the next thing they were looking for, the next thing we are looking for in going towards our vision, right? And probably when we get to that vision, we'll be starting to look for a different one, right? And so if we only make up our minds that we're going to enjoy it when we get there, then we'll probably not realize all the steps along the way that also are contributing to our happiness, that also we are supposed to enjoy, right? One of the key things that Alex found at the end of the book was that he had actually learned a lot more from the process than from the interviews that he had done. The interviews were great, they were phenomenal and all that, right? But then towards the end of the book, he writes how he feels that the true lessons came from him going along on this journey, him taking this unconventional path and then going along on this journey, right? In the first part, I shared how his parents are Persian Jewish, and so of course they want they wanted him to be a doctor. They wanted him to follow the conventional routes, but then he decided to go on a different route. He decided to take a different path, and so for him, the lessons that he learns in trying to get to these people, the interview skills he had to learn, the relationships he had to build, the composure he had to have, all of them were skills that he learns along the way. And so for him, the process is much more important. So I guess that the life lesson is that whatever we are doing as parts of reaching towards our vision, we need to make sure that we find ways to enjoy the process. And I think that the second takeaway from the final parts of the book, he went to meet Lady Gaga eventually in the book, I think towards the latter parts. And when he went to interview Lady Gaga, right, what happened was that the next day or a couple of days from then, Lady Gaga had this interview on a national television station. People would be there and all that, and she was sort of panicking a bit because she wanted to really make sure that the interview went well, and she wanted to make sure that the album she had launched recently would really blow out, and then people would come and then get it and all that, people enjoy the music and all that. And so in preparing towards this interview where she's going to be speaking about this new album which she launched, she asked for Alex and then the guy who had connected Alex to her to help her prepare for the session. So Alex had to join this guy, and then overnight they put together a PowerPoint and there's some amazing key points to help Lady Gaga go and then blow the session. Interestingly, she and Alex's interview that even Alex set out to come to that city to have with her, it didn't come up. But then he helped her in a phenomenal way. He helped her prepare for that interview, right? Of course, along with the guy who had helped connect Alex to Lady Gaga, right? And then the lesson that I got from there for us is that we never know when the knowledge we're going to have is going to come in handy. And Alex was able to help prepare for this interview that Lady Gaga had, because he had learned so much about her prior to his meeting with her, right? He had really researched, really gone into it. And so I think that that's the key thing. That's a life lesson. How much are we preparing for the things that we want? We're on a mission, right? What kind of efforts are we making to seek the knowledge ourselves? Recently, I saw this short video of Wusi Tembekwai, that the South African speaker, right? Amazing speaker, where he was saying that we're going to get to school, we're going to get the degrees, the masters, but then as we get them, we also need to realize that knowledge that we got in school is also becoming obsolete. So what are we doing to top up our knowledge, right? And so I think that Alex showed proactiveness throughout the book. He really took time. Each time he was going to interview somebody, he took so much time to research, prepare to go and then interview that person, right? And so in our case too, how diligent are we about the things that we really set out to accomplish, right? The truth is that we can have a school curriculum and all that, but then I guess that we're all getting to the point where we have to acknowledge that we have to also do our own learning, we have to also do our own research, we also have to find the information that pertains to the achievement of our goal, right? So I think proactiveness in learning and then really making use of the knowledge we have learned is a key thing that also learns from Alex's journey. And there's also this friend that Alex met on his journey, and this guy had conducted he had conducted this summit. He didn't do interviews. It was this summit that he did, and he held summits with young entrepreneurs, top entrepreneurs, people who were really excelling in their field. And when Alex met this guy, so Alex cold emailed him at a point, right? Because he was going through different documents and eventually came across him, and they were like, who is this guy? Because it seems that he's able to put together top entrepreneurs. How does he do this? So Alex emailed him because he wanted to learn from him how he did that, so I could help Alex in his journey as well. So when he met the guy, one thing that the guy told him was that the very first time that he held this summit for young entrepreneurs, he didn't know how it was going to go. He said that he even asked his mother that when they come, what food will I even give them? Like, he didn't know how it was. But then this guy still said something was going to have the summit. And then eventually he had top organizations. They mentioned the Bill Clinton, either office or administration or something. And then other people, other big companies in the States contributing towards this. They were ready to sponsor the summits and then have these young entrepreneurs meet together, right? And so I think that the key lesson from there, this guy, he didn't know how he was going to do that. He didn't know what food they were going to eat, but he was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And so I think that sometimes we just have to go in, we'll just have to take the bite, right? And then we'll have to learn how to chew after we've taken the bite. So sometimes we just have to go and stand on the journey. We might not see all the steps, we might not be able to connect all the dots here, but then we have that far-off vision of what we want, right? Like this guy knew he wanted a summit where young entrepreneurs could come and learn together. So that was his main vision, his main goal. But then he didn't know all the connecting dots. And I think that life lessons that we're not always going to know all the connecting dots. It's not always going to be clear in the beginning. But then as we go on, we'll learn different things that will help us contribute towards it. So the main thing is just to have that main objective, right? And then keep on learning. Let's keep improvising on the way. There are different lessons that are going to come along the way. Alex learned so many lessons along the journey, right? That's why at the end of the day he said that for him it's the journey that was the major lesson. He learned so many lessons along the journey, and for us it's going to be the same thing. Sometimes there are going to be challenges where we even feel like we wish that we hadn't even set up on this journey, where we feel frustrated, we feel like, okay, like come on, like what's happening? But then in those instances, the only thing that we can do is say, okay, so this was happening, what can I do about it? Is there something I can do? Is it too late for me to do something? What are some lessons? And so we pick the lessons and then we move on towards our vision, right? And then I think that the final thing that I'll share is, so I looked Alex up on Instagram, I think 2 days or so, and he has this nice office. In the beginning we were sharing how he went to put up some office, some working space. We say it's not perfect, but then he put it up. And in this picture on Instagram, he has a nice office, right? And then he has this board on the wall, and he says either there's always a way or there's a way or something. And so basically, he said that throughout his journey, right, that was one of the key things that he learned, that there's always a way to make something happen. So the thing that you and I want to do, there's always a way to make it happen. Sometimes we just need to ask the right questions. We need to make sure that we keep asking, because there could be people who would be willing to support the journey, there will be people who would be willing to support the mission, but because we haven't asked, because we haven't told them, because they don't know what we are doing, because we haven't tried to reach out to them, right, or try to put in some kind of efforts to make it clear to them what we are trying to do, they can't come in and support, right? But then if we make it clear, if we find different ways to communicate what we want, there will probably be some assistance that we can get, And I know sometimes, you set off doing something, have you realized that somehow things somehow work together, right? Things somehow work together. Sometimes it's God, sometimes some circumstances, I don't know how, but sometimes things work together, right? And so there's always a way. But then if we don't set up in the first place, we might not identify that way as easily as it would have been if we were just like set up and decided to go ahead and then ask people, right? So I hope that these lessons have been useful. I hope that you enjoyed this review of the book, and I will catch you soon with more book reviews, so that we can learn and grow together. So I wish you an amazing rest of the weekend. Goodbye.